Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. So I wanted to provide an update on the coronavirus situation. There's some good news that has come out about PwC, about their internships and jobs. So PwC has said that they're going to still be doing the internships. And we spoke about this before, about how they're doing their 2-week programs. In some areas, they're doing 2-week programs. And other areas they're doing about a month. And it depends on what kind of internship you get, because obviously PwC has different branches, different lines of service, and all these big four companies have different leadership programs. I mean, everybody's in some kind of leadership program now as an intern. I think they do that to get people excited. So they tell their friends and recruits and other people at their colleges about this cool internship they have and what it's called. There's things called PwC Advance, PwC Start. And all these things are going to be virtual. And that's the headline here, that people at PwC are not only going to get their internships, but their PwC is also still keeping full-time offers for people. And they plan to hire all those people. And at least that's what they're saying across the news on various websites. And there's a website called Poets and Quants where one of their HR people talked about how PwC isn't giving up on their people, and they're one of the only firms, or they're the first firm so far that said they're not going to go back on their offers to people for internships and full-time jobs. But one thing I would caution here for people is be careful, because if you read between the lines on this stuff, the interns are going to be getting their internships, but the internships have been reduced and therefore the pay is being reduced. So PwC is saving money. But also they're not going to be doing their trainings in person. And what that means is they're also saving money on not sending people out to one location, saving money on the hotels, the conferences, the flights. So they're really saving a lot of money here while giving themselves some good PR. But I do think this is much better than what KPMG is doing. And that's something to learn here, that out of the big four right now, PwC is at the forefront of looking out for the employees. So that's something to make note of. If you have an offer with them, your personal experience of working at PwC is going to be different from everybody else's. And you have to figure out what's best for yourself. But right now, from a high level perspective, PwC is doing the best job of looking out for their employees and saying, and not being afraid to say it in the press, where these other firms aren't really saying it. KPMG is laying people off. There's no doubt about that. EY and Deloitte, it's not clear what they're doing, and they're not being outspoken about it. And PwC isn't being super outspoken. They're going to various smaller websites and speaking about it in not as public ways. We've heard from PwC UK Careers that they're keeping their offers and they're hiring people, but other platforms, they're not being outspoken. But if you're looking for a firm that's looking out for their employees out of the big four, it's going to be PwC right now. And in that Poets and Quants article, they mentioned other companies that aren't keeping their internships, like Facebook and other big companies. So this is really a blessing here. But the other thing that's in these articles that you have to read between the lines about is the PwC said they're going to move their start date back for their full-time employees, or they're thinking about moving it back. And as I thought about this, that makes sense. And it's also concerning, because as someone that worked in the big four accounting firms, as I think about staff that I would want to work with, I'd want to meet them in person, but also all the things that a staff person needs to do. You need to meet with them personally to show them things. Teaching staff people virtually is pretty hard, and it's okay. I could do that, but it's a lot more of my time, and it's going to be difficult to get them integrated, because that's how you begin to build trust, is in person. And so it's going to be weird for these people to be working alone by themselves from home from day one. And naturally in the big four and accounting firms, you have all these introverted people that aren't very outspoken. And so for a new staff person to get started by themselves working from home and to mesh with the team is going to be pretty hard. They have to be pretty vocal and reaching out a lot via email and setting up conference calls and meetings. And I don't know many staff people from day one that do that. So it's going to be very weird to get these people integrated. And also, when you work at the big four, a lot of the people that are higher up are really only concerned about themselves and their clients, and they're not really concerned about getting younger people involved. So I'm not sure how PwC is going to deal with that. It's going to be really difficult to get people integrated. But if you're going to start working for the big four, PwC, whoever, the advice that I would offer is you have to connect. You have to connect with the people on your team and you have to stay connected. You have to figure out ways to connect. That's virtual meetings. And that doesn't mean bugging people, because when you first start working, you're going to have a lot of spare time on your hands and you're going to want to reach out a lot too. There's some people that are going to just reach out too much. You have to be careful about that too, because there's going to be limited work during this time. So you need to reach out, but you can't be reaching out every single day, letting everybody know that you have free time. But you also can't just disappear into the fray, because when you disappear into the fray, people are going to ask you why your utilization is so low. So it's going to be a unique balance. And I see a lot of unintended consequences here, but it's also like PwC is trying to take credit for keeping their employees while also not really saying when they're going to hire them or when they're going to onboard them. And by delaying that date further and further, they also leave open the door to say that they're not going to actually honor those offers. And I think that's something to keep in mind. It's going to be hard to onboard people during this time. That's without a doubt. And I think PwC is thinking through it, and I think the other big four firms are thinking about how they're going to do that. So that's just an update I wanted to provide. There's definitely going to be more to come on how this is going to be executed. We need to understand the details of how these people are going to be onboarded. And then from there, we can begin to provide advice on how to put your best foot forward if you're working virtually. And with that, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our Big Four accounting firm's webpage. We're keeping track of all the Big Four layoffs and pay cuts and everything else related to COVID-19 and the Big Four accounting firms on our website. We'll include the link to that in the show notes and the description on YouTube. Thanks for listening.